At the Police Canine Training Center nestled in rural Pennsylvania, there was one name everyone spoke with frustration: Rex, a 3-year-old German Shepherd. Rex had the ideal bloodline, sharp instincts, and physical strength perfect for a police or military canine. But that's where the promise ended. In every other way, he was considered a failure. Rex had been through 5 different trainers. Each one tried a different approach: strict discipline, calm bonding, reward-based training, but none could get through to him. He bit during leashing, barked through drills, and completely ignored commands. He didn't obey. He didn't trust. And worst of all, he didn't care. "He's too wild," one trainer had said, holding up a bandaged wrist. "He's not cut out for service," another declared, packing up his gear. Even Dana, the most experienced and patient of them all, began doubting if Rex could ever be rehabilitated. Every dog that came through the center was trained to protect and serve. Most completed their courses in under a year. But Rex had been there for over 15 months, with little to show for it except scratched walls and shredded harnesses. Inside the staff break room, the mood had shifted from concern to resignation. "They'll probably pull him next week," a young assistant muttered. "They've already marked him unfit for duty," someone replied. "Shame. Beautiful dog, just too much fire in him." Dana, sipping her lukewarm coffee, sat silently by the window. She didn't like giving up, not on dogs, not on people. But Rex had pushed every limit. She thought of the time he slipped his leash and charged toward a fence, or the day he nearly tore through a training vest with one snap of his jaw. There was anger in him, or maybe fear. She couldn't quite tell. Then, just as the staff were finalizing paperwork to have Rex removed from the program and possibly relocated to a long-term kennel, an unexpected call came in. A non-profit organization that worked with visually impaired children had scheduled a visit to the center. It wasn't uncommon. They often brought groups in to meet trained dogs and learn about their abilities. The idea was to inspire the children, and in some rare cases, match them with future service animals. This time, a special request was made. An 11-year-old boy named Ethan, completely blind since age 2, wanted to visit the training grounds. He had a deep fascination with dogs, even though he'd never actually seen one. His mother said that despite being blind, Ethan had a special sense about people and animals. Dana looked at the request form and frowned slightly when she read Ethan's note. "I don't want to meet the perfect dogs. I want to meet the one no one understands." She blinked. Was this a joke? Who had told him about Rex? Out of curiosity more than anything else, she called the boy's mother. "I'm sorry," Dana said, "but how did Ethan hear about a dog that's not even up for adoption?" His mother hesitated. "He didn't. He just said it out of the blue." Dana's fingers tapped her desk slowly. She glanced across the hall where Rex lay in his kennel, his golden eyes still sharp, still restless. "He's not safe," she warned. "I trust my son," came the quiet reply. "And if you let him meet Rex, maybe you'll trust him too." Dana didn't know why she agreed. Maybe it was exhaustion. Or maybe, somewhere deep down, she still believed in one last chance. And so the visit was set. The trainers were told to prepare the most obedient dogs for demonstration. But no one expected what would happen when the blind boy walked through the doors. Least of all Rex. Ethan stepped carefully out of the van, one hand gripping his white cane while the other clutched his mother's fingers. His head tilted toward every sound: the bark of a distant dog, the soft crunch of gravel, the buzzing of overhead lights. Though blind since he was 2, Ethan's world was rich with detail, painted not in color, but in sound, scent, and feeling. The canine facility staff welcomed the group politely. Dana stood nearby, clipboard in hand, watching the boy with quiet curiosity. He looked small in front of the tall training gates, but something in his posture steady, calm made her pause. "This way," one of the handlers said, leading the children toward a line of kennels. They began introducing the trained dogs one by one. "This is Bailey. She works in narcotics detection." The dog barked cheerfully and licked a boy's hand through the bars. Next was Max, a dark-coated Malinois with piercing eyes, but a gentle soul. He can detect a person hiding in a forest from over 200 feet away. Max pressed his nose to Ethan's hand, and Ethan smiled softly. But after meeting 3 dogs, Ethan began to drift. His mother noticed him tilting his head, his expression oddly focused. He took a step back, then turned slowly toward the far end of the building, toward the kennels not meant for public viewing. "Sweetheart, that area is restricted," his mother said gently. Ethan didn't answer. He simply whispered, "There's someone over there." Dana froze. There was only one dog housed in that corner, Rex. No one had brought him up. No one had mentioned his name. In fact, he had been intentionally left off the tour to prevent any risks. But now Ethan was walking toward him, tapping his cane lightly as he went. Dana hurried to intercept. "I'm sorry. That kennel isn't open for visitors." Ethan stopped in front of her. "Is there a dog over there?" She hesitated. "Yes, but he's not like the others. He's difficult." Ethan tilted his head again, almost as if listening beyond the walls. "He's lonely." The words hit Dana like a gust of wind. Behind the door, Rex let out a low, uncertain growl. "Please," Ethan said. "Just for a minute." Dana looked at the boy, then at the steel door. Her training said no. But something else, something deeper, told her to trust the moment. "Stay back," she said, signaling to a nearby trainer to prepare the emergency release just in case. Slowly, cautiously, she unlocked the door and cracked it open. Rex stood at the back of his kennel, muscles tense, eyes locked onto the unfamiliar figure in front of him. Ethan didn't flinch. He took a slow step forward and reached out a hand, stopping just short of the bars. The room was silent, every trainer holding their breath. Rex didn't bark. He didn't lunge. He simply stared. Ethan leaned slightly closer, and in the softest voice said one word: "Friend." For a moment, nothing happened. Then, incredibly, Rex stepped forward. Dana felt her stomach twist in disbelief. The dog who had snarled at every human, who refused to follow even the simplest command, now moved gently toward this blind boy. Rex stopped just inches from Ethan's hand. Then, slowly, cautiously, he placed his nose against the boy's open palm. Ethan smiled. "He's not angry," he whispered. "He's scared." The trainers exchanged stunned glances. One of them began filming the moment instinctively, unsure if anyone would believe it later. Dana's hand dropped from the door as she whispered to herself, "What is this?" No one knew yet, but in that instant, everything changed for the boy, the dog, and everyone who witnessed the impossible. Dana replayed the scene in her mind long after the tour ended. Ethan, with no vision and no fear, had walked straight into the presence of a dog considered too dangerous for contact. And with one word, friend, he had done what 5 trained professionals could not. He reached Rex. Later that afternoon. After the group had left, Dana sat reviewing the footage on her tablet. The moment was clear. No growling, no snarling, no defensive posture. Rex had approached Ethan like he had known him for years. Gently, calmly, trustingly. The other trainers were baffled. "This doesn't make sense," one muttered. "He's never acted that way before," another added. Dana stayed quiet, still watching the video. The connection wasn't just a fluke. It was a bond. That night, Dana called Ethan's mother. "I need to ask something unusual," she said. "Would you consider bringing Ethan back for a private session with Rex?" There was a pause. "Then Ethan hasn't stopped talking about him," He called him his dog. We'd be honored. The next morning, under strict supervision, Ethan returned to the facility. No visitors, no other dogs, just Rex, secured on a long lead, and Dana standing by with a tranquilizer in case anything went wrong. Ethan entered the room slowly. He tapped the floor with his cane, listening. "Where is he?" he asked softly. "He's about 6 feet in front of you," Dana replied, watching Rex carefully. The dog stood still, ears forward, but his tail didn't wag, nor did it stiffen. He was curious. Ethan reached into his pocket and pulled out something small, a rubber toy shaped like a bone. He tossed it gently on the floor. It bounced twice and rolled toward Rex. The shepherd stepped forward and sniffed it. Then, to everyone's amazement, he picked it up in his mouth and carried it back. Straight to Ethan. The room went silent again. No one moved. Ethan knelt down, held out his hand, and smiled. "Thank you." Rex dropped the toy into his palm and gently nudged the boy's chest with his nose. Dana exhaled slowly. Her heart was pounding. She'd been training dogs for nearly 20 years. She'd worked with war dogs, bomb sniffers, and therapy canines. But she had never seen something like this. "I think he trusts him," one of the handlers whispered. "And only him?" Over the next week, Ethan visited the center 3 more times. Each time, Rex responded to his voice, followed his steps, and even began recognizing simple words. Sit, come, stay. But only when Ethan gave the commands. With everyone else, Rex remained wary, distant, defensive. Dana reviewed her notes one night and wrote a sentence she never thought she'd put on paper. Dog may be untrainable by conventional methods, but is responsive to blind child's presence and voice. Recommend further supervised bonding. She couldn't explain it scientifically. Theories were thrown around. Maybe Ethan's blindness made his energy more peaceful. Or maybe Rex sensed something others couldn't. But none of that mattered. What mattered was that the angry, aggressive dog no one could reach had chosen someone, and that someone was a boy who couldn't even see him. Word of the unusual connection began to spread quietly among the staff. They started referring to Ethan as Rex's boy. Some believed the dog had simply needed a gentler soul. Others whispered that it was fate, but Ethan didn't think too much about it. When asked why he thought Rex listened to him, he just shrugged and said, "Because I said friend, and I meant it." To him, it was simple. To everyone else, it was a miracle in motion. And for Dana, it was the beginning of something entirely new, something she was willing to fight for. Asterisk, from that day forward, everything changed at the training center. Rex, once isolated and considered a danger, was now part of something that didn't follow the textbook. Dana designed a special trial one that didn't exist in the manual, didn't follow protocol, and would likely be rejected by most official trainers. But it was the only option that made sense. Ethan and Rex would work together under her direct supervision. If it failed, they'd end the trial. But if it worked, they might rewrite everything the center thought they knew about training. The staff was split. Some were curious. Others were skeptical, even fearful. You're putting a blind kid next to a failed attack dog, one handler argued. No, Dana said calmly. I'm putting a soul beside another soul who needs healing. The first session was simple. Ethan entered the open training yard, guided by Dana. Rex was already there, off-leash but within the enclosed space. He spotted Ethan immediately and trotted over, his steps relaxed, his ears up, not alert for danger, but tuned in to a friend. Ethan smiled and knelt down, patting the grass beside him. Come sit with me, he said gently. Rex sat, not out of obedience, not because he was trained to, but because he wanted to. Dana was stunned. She watched as Ethan pulled out a small harness, Not a training one, but a soft vest that he had brought from home. He reached forward slowly, and to her amazement, Rex let him slip it over his back. In all her time with Rex, Dinah couldn't even get a collar on him without a fight. Now this boy had just fitted him with a vest, using nothing but kindness and voice. "Okay, let's try something," Dinah said carefully. "Ethan, ask him to follow you. Take a few slow steps." Ethan gave a light tug on the leash. "Come, friend." Rex followed step by step. They walked a straight path across the yard. Ethan used his cane to navigate, and Rex stayed perfectly at his side, not pulling, not veering, just moving with him as if he had always been there. The small crowd watching them stood frozen. Phones quietly recorded. Even the harshest critics were speechless. Over the next week, Ethan visited daily. Rex responded to every word, every gesture. They practiced sitting, walking, turning, everything that usually took months. Ethan used soft encouragement, no force. And Rex, for the first time in his life, didn't resist. Dinah documented every interaction. She kept video logs, notes, progress charts. It wasn't just about proving that Ethan could bond with Rex. It was about protecting them both from what she feared might come next. By the fourth session, something extraordinary happened. Ethan tripped on an uneven patch of ground. He stumbled forward, nearly hitting the dirt. Rex leapt ahead, gently bracing himself under the boy's side, keeping him from falling. Everyone gasped. Did he just catch him? One staff member whispered. He protected him, Dinah replied. On instinct. It was the very behavior Rex was meant to learn, but had refused with every professional trainer. And now he'd done it on his own, for a child who couldn't even see the act. Later that day, Ethan sat cross-legged on the ground with Rex's head in his lap. He ran his fingers across the dog's thick fur and whispered, "I think you are just waiting for someone to trust you first." Rex let out a soft huff, not of annoyance, but of comfort. The yard was quiet, but it was the kind of quiet filled with meaning. Dana wiped a tear from her cheek as she looked on. She had seen service dogs formed through discipline, focus, and hours of drills. But this was something else entirely. This was love, loyalty, and healing between two beings who had once been told they were broken, and neither of them believed it anymore. As the days turned into weeks, the bond between Ethan and Rex deepened into something undeniable. Every morning, Ethan would arrive at the facility with a gentle voice and a pocket full of treats. And every morning, Rex would greet him with a wagging tail and an alert posture. No barking, no resistance, just quiet devotion. But outside the safety of their sessions, doubts began to creep in. One afternoon, while Dana was reviewing the training logs, her phone buzzed. It was a call from the K9 Oversight Board. A soft, serious voice on the other end asked for a formal update on Rex's status. Rumors of a child training a failed dog had begun circulating, and not everyone found it heartwarming. Are you allowing an unqualified minor to handle a rejected K9? The voice asked. Dana felt the tension climb in her chest. It's under supervised training with documented progress. And he's not unqualified. He's extraordinary. There was a pause. We'll be conducting a review. You'll receive the official notice by Monday. The line went dead. Dana slowly lowered the phone. A review meant potential shutdown. If the board determined Rex was still unstable, the partnership could be forcibly ended. Worse, Rex might be removed from the program, entirely, possibly euthanized, due to his behavioral history. She stared out the window at the training yard, where Ethan was laughing as Rex chased a rolling ball across the grass. It was such a simple moment, but in the eyes of red tape and regulations, simplicity meant nothing. That evening, Dana sat with Ethan and his mother to explain the situation. Ethan's face fell as she spoke. They want to take him away? He asked. They want to evaluate the situation, Dana replied carefully. But yes, it's possible. Ethan clenched the leash tighter. But he's not dangerous anymore. He listens to me. He helps me. I know, Dana said. We all know. But we have to prove it to them. His mother gently placed a hand on his shoulder. We'll get through this. You've already done the impossible once. We'll do it again. Ethan nodded, but his usual smile was gone. Over the next few days, Dana compiled every piece of evidence she could. Videos of Rex following commands, charts showing behavioral improvements, written testimonies from staff. Ethan even dictated a heartfelt letter, explaining how Rex had changed his life, how he no longer felt afraid when walking, how he finally had a friend who didn't care that he was blind. But despite all their preparation, there was one thing they couldn't control: fear. The canine world was filled with caution, liability, history, and Rex's history was brutal. A former police dog reject, labeled aggressive, nearly pulled from service. And now he was bonded with an 11-year-old boy, a blind one. The headlines alone could fuel controversy. One afternoon, just 3 days before the review, Ethan sat alone with Rex in the quiet corner of the facility. He leaned forward and hugged him tight, pressing his cheek into the dog's fur. Are they going to take you from me? He whispered. Rex let out a soft, reassuring groan and nudged the boy's shoulder. Ethan smiled faintly. They don't see what I see, but that's okay. You see me. That's what matters. Nearby, Dana watched in silence. Her decision had put everything on the line: her job, her reputation, the program. But watching them now, she knew one thing. She would fight. Not just because Ethan deserved Rex, but because Rex had finally found someone who believed in him. And belief, she realized, was something no training manual could ever teach. Asterisk, the day of the K9 Review Board hearing arrived, gray and overcast. Inside the main conference room of the facility, officials from across the state took their seats around a long oak table. Suits, tablets, clipboards, everything was stiff and formal. Dana sat near the front, her notes carefully organized in a folder that had been opened and closed 100 times. At the center of the room sat Ethan, dressed in a blue button-down shirt, his cane resting quietly beside his chair. Rex sat it, his feet calm and alert, sensing the tension in the room, but not reacting to it. His eyes never left Ethan. One of the board members, an older woman with sharp glasses and a colder tone, leaned forward. We've reviewed the file. Rex has been classified as unstable in 3 separate evaluations. We are here to determine whether this pairing is in violation of safety protocols. Dana took a breath. With all due respect, what's in that file is not who Rex is anymore. The woman tapped her pen. That's what we're here to assess. They played the video's footage of Rex walking beside Ethan, obeying verbal commands, retrieving dropped items, even blocking the boy from bumping into a wall during an exercise. The board members remained mostly expressionless. Then came the testimonies. One by one, facility staff stepped forward. They spoke of Rex's transformation, of Ethan's patience, of moments no one believed were possible. But it all felt procedural, like Data trying to explain magic. Finally, the room fell silent. The board chair looked toward Ethan. Would the boy like to speak? Dana turned to him. You don't have to if you're not ready. Ethan nodded. I want to. He stood slowly, one hand on Rex's head for support. The room was silent, all eyes on a child who couldn't even see them watching. I know what people think when they hear I'm blind, Ethan began. They think I'm weak, that I can't protect myself, that I need help. He paused and reached down to touch Rex's back. But Rex doesn't treat me like that. He listens to me. He doesn't care that I can't see. He follows my voice. Because I talk to him like a person, not like something broken. A murmur ran through the room, but Ethan kept going. I know what Rex used to be. I read the reports, but people change. Dogs change too. I didn't need him to be perfect. I just needed him to be real. And he needed someone who wouldn't give up on him. His mother sniffled quietly behind him. Donna sat frozen, tears in her eyes. I may not be a certified trainer, Ethan said, but I know how to love, and that's all Rex ever needed. He stepped back and sat down. Rex immediately laid his head on Ethan's foot. The board members looked at one another. Something unspoken passed between them. After 10 minutes of quiet deliberation, the chair returned. In light of the testimony, behavioral evidence, and extraordinary progress made, she said slowly, we unanimously approve the continued pairing of Ethan and Rex. The room erupted in soft gasps. Dana covered her mouth. Ethan reached down and hugged Rex so tightly that the dog gave a gentle whine of joy. But, the chair added, the case will remain under observation for 1 year. Regular check-ins will be required. That's fine, Dana said. You'll keep seeing miracles. Ethan beamed. For the first time in his life. He didn't feel like the one being protected. He was the reason someone else got a second chance. And that made him feel powerful. After the hearing, the air at the training facility felt lighter, almost like it could finally breathe again. Word of the board's decision spread quickly. Staff who had once called Rex untrainable now smiled at him when he passed. Dana posted a single sentence on the office bulletin board. The dog no one could reach found the boy who never stopped trying. Ethan and Rex were officially partners now. Not in the usual way a dog and a police officer might be, but in a way even stronger, bound not by orders and rules, but by quiet trust and something deeper. Love that didn't ask for perfection. Dana designed a special training plan, tailored specifically to Ethan's needs. It was unconventional, but effective. Instead of whistles and loud cues, Ethan used soft verbal commands. Instead of sharp tugs on a leash, he used gentle touches and consistent voice tones. Rex responded to all of it as though the boy had written his training manual from the start. Within a few weeks, Ethan and Rex were completing full obstacle courses. They practiced in real-world settings, crossing streets, navigating sidewalks, walking into buildings. Rex learned to stop when Ethan needed to step down and to nudge his side gently if an object blocked his path. Ethan had never moved through the world with such confidence. One afternoon, they visited a local school where Ethan gave a talk to. A room full of students. With Rex sitting calmly beside him, Ethan told their story. I used to think people would always see me as someone who needed help, he said. But Rex never made me feel like that. He didn't care that I couldn't see him. He just trusted me, and that made me trust myself. Students clapped. Teachers wiped their eyes. One boy raised his hand and asked, do you think I could help animals too? Ethan smiled. Anyone can help someone. You just have to believe they're worth helping. After the presentation, a local newspaper published a front-page article titled, Rejected Canine Becomes Blind Boy's Guardian, a Friendship That Saved 2 Lives. The story went viral online. Soon, Dana's office was flooded with calls from families, journalists, and even former trainers. Many wanted to meet Ethan and Rex. Others wanted to understand how a supposedly hopeless dog became a hero. The mayor invited them to a community event and presented Ethan with a certificate of appreciation for proving that compassion can succeed where discipline alone cannot. Rex received a brand new harness embroidered with the word friend, the very first word Ethan had ever spoken to him. He wore it proudly, as though it were a badge of honor. But beyond the applause and recognition, It was the quiet moments that meant the most, like when Ethan and Rex sat together in the park, listening to the wind. Or when they crossed the street alone for the first time, with Ethan guiding the way and Rex watching over each step. Or when Ethan whispered before bed, "Good night, buddy," and Rex answered with a content sigh. One evening, as Dana locked up the facility, she looked out into the twilight and saw them both, boy and dog, walking side by side down the path, silhouetted against the golden sky. They saved each other, she whispered to herself. And maybe they'll save more. Ethan hadn't just given Rex a second chance. He'd rewritten the rules, and everyone, trainers, children, and dogs alike, would benefit from what they had created together. A partnership that wasn't built with force, but with kindness. A decision that didn't just change their lives, but opened hearts everywhere. Months passed, and Ethan's world expanded beyond what he had ever dreamed possible. The boy who once depended heavily on others now walked confidently with Rex by his side. The white cane still tapped gently ahead, but Rex's presence was steady and strong, a living guide and protector. Their daily walks became their favorite time, a ritual of freedom. Sidewalks, parks, school halls, all places Ethan had once feared became pathways to adventure. Rex navigated obstacles, stopped at curbs, and alerted Ethan to strangers approaching. But more than that, Rex was a friend who never judged the boy's blindness. Together, they moved as one. The community that once doubted now cheered. Stories of their bond spread through schools, local newspapers, and social media. Ethan's courage inspired others facing challenges to believe in their own strength. Rex's transformation gave hope to countless rejects, dogs, and people alike. One afternoon, Ethan was invited to speak at a national conference on service animals. Standing before hundreds of trainers, doctors, and advocates, he shared their story, the story of a boy who said one word, friend, and changed a dog's life forever. "I want you to remember," Ethan said, "that every being deserves a chance to be seen for who they really are. Sometimes all it takes is one word, one moment, and one person who believes." After his speech, dozens approached him to share how his story touched their hearts. Some had dogs they thought lost causes. Others cared for children with disabilities, searching for hope, but all left with a renewed belief that connection, patience, and kindness could overcome the impossible. Back home, the bond between Ethan and Rex grew deeper every day. At night, Ethan whispered stories to Rex, telling him about the world he couldn't see, colors, sunshine, the laughter of friends. Rex listened, resting his head on Ethan's lap, faithful and calm. Their mornings began with gentle wake-up calls, and their days were filled with walks, training, and play. Rex was no longer just a dog in training. He was a hero, a guardian, and above all, a friend. Sometimes Ethan's mother would watch them, amazed at the journey they had taken. From a boy fearful of the world and a dog feared by all, to a pair inseparable and unstoppable. One quiet evening, as the sun set in hues of gold and pink, Ethan and Rex walked the familiar path to the park. The gentle breeze carried the scent of blooming flowers and distant laughter. Ethan felt the familiar tug of Rex's leash, a silent reminder that he was never alone. He smiled and whispered, "Friend." Rex's tail wagged slowly in the fading light. They had both found something they never expected, a new beginning, a life transformed by one simple word, and a bond that defied every expectation. And as they walked into the future together, Ethan and Rex knew their story was far from over, because true friendship is the greatest adventure of all.